What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be doing another mock draft. It's Mock Draft Monday, so of course I'm here to deliver a one-round no trades mock draft, and of course this week's very special because starting Tuesday through Wednesday, Thursday, we're having a 3-round trade mock draft. So definitely stay tuned for that. I want to make sure on those mock drafts that I do trades on that the order is up to date. So of course, feel free to stick around for that. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube jazz. Just breached 5,500 not too long ago, on the way to 5,600 and beyond. So join the community because I would love to have you guys here. Join the Discord. I'm going to holler at it all the time. It's completely free. We do stuff over there all the time, like tape studies that you can't do over here on YouTube using stuff like All-22. So again, you're only screwing yourself over by not joining. There's over 220 members now, which is awesome. You guys get to message me at any time. You guys get to have a really good community in there as well. And then again, of course, we get to do stuff like tape studies, and then fan mock drafts are going to be going through there. I'm finishing finals in a couple of days. As you can tell by my Louis Vuitton eye bags, I just finished one right now. So we're going to get through this. Trust me. And then we're going to have a lot of fun. Let's kick right into the mock draft. Again, this is a no trades mock draft, one round, because it's nice to be able to test some fun things. Put us in some situations where usually I'm like, okay, I can just trade out of this. I see some better fits for other teams. So let's have some fun. Again, give me your feedback down below. Don't be a dick about it. That's the number one thing. I love hearing criticism because I want to make good content for you guys, but just make sure we just have it in a nice political, or a nice, I guess, non-political, that's never really nice, but a nice discourse. We'll put it that way. Let's go right into it. Number 1 overall. Again, I'm not going to waste much of our time on this. Bryce Young is going to be the dude. Yes, I don't think quarterback is necessarily a have to at this spot. If there is a team, like, let's just say, Carolina just completely screwed themselves over. They're technically 19% chance of making the playoffs, and they have a tie break. But let's just say some stupid team, wow, there's not that many teams. Let's just say the Colts are that crazy about Bryce Young. They're not going to be. I'm just saying a super weird hypothetical. And they offer a ton of draft capital. Would it be the end of the world to wait till next year? No. But I will say it's very expensive to trade up to pick number 1. So we have to factor that in as well. Bryce Young is going to be the pick. That's just until you're out of that spot. You've already shown a lot of resiliency. There's a lot of big flashes from Davis Mills here and there, and that's awesome. And I think that he's going to be an excellent backup with starter potential and someone who you should always have on your roster because, especially if you're worried about Bryce Young's injury, then you have somebody who can step in and still win you 1 or 2 games here and there. And I think Davis Mills is perfect for that. So I love Bryce Young. He is by far the best quarterback in the class. You know, there's issues with Will Levis. There are issues with CJ Stroud. But Bryce Young, his issues pertain mainly to the things that you can't change. But his strengths are stuff that you can't change either. And that it has to really deal with what's going on inside here. He's able to elevate guys around him. You never hear him being a locker room problem. He just seems like a genuinely good leader. And he's willing to lay it all out there. His play style is very similar to how Deshaun Watson is. He's a very big playmaker, very good in the pocket, and he's very good under pressure as well. So I love Bryce Young. I really do think that his, he doesn't have the frame of Deshaun, but that play style obviously has been shown to at least be able to get the Texans to the playoffs in years past. Pick number 2. So, dude, the Seahawks, man, like I don't even know what to say. To be fair, you lost to the Panthers yesterday, and I think the Panthers are a very good roster. I really do. I had them winning quite a few games. I don't think I had them very high up in mock drafts, but they're a very good roster. And Wilkes looks like a very good coach. I hope that he's not going to, but I hope that he can stick around. But we all know interim head coaches just never do. I digress. You want to go an edge rusher, 100%. But this is the deepest edge rushing class that at least I've studied in the past 3 years. And I know that in our second round picks or our first round pick, there's going to be somebody who is God tier caliber. As you guys can see, this is my own rankings, and it's mostly up to date. It's been taking out a lot of those dudes who are saying they're returning. So, at least we don't have guys like Kayshon Boutte screwing up my ranking boards. Still, you guys can see exactly what I feel here. And there are guys, even like Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who are ranked number 14 that I can guarantee you he's going to be there at the second pick. Jared Verse might be the best player in the class. Like, I legitimately believe he could be. But he's possibly there at that next spot too. No one's close to Jalen Carter. Nobody. I don't think even guys like Jerzon Newton are close to him. And no one's talking about Jerzon Newton, so if you're like, oh, I haven't heard about this guy, don't worry about it. He's one of my guys in the draft. But this idea that Brian Barisi is so close is absolutely BS. So we are going to actually do something very smart and take Jalen Carter because we can, of course, draft somebody extremely special of an extremely special skill set later on. Pick number 3 with the Bears. This is going to be Will Anderson. If you can't move, you might as well go with the best. And I don't really think I need to describe much more about Will Anderson. You know, you did lose your high second round pick. So it does actually take you out of the range for actually getting somebody of Will Anderson's style or talent level at that spot. Versus like if you had it, then maybe you could say, okay, let's look at a different option. But I don't think that's a bright move. I think if you're here, you get Will Anderson, you have what you were hoping out of Khalil Mack and what Khalil Mack showed for quite a few years there in Chicago. So I like Will Anderson a lot. He's a great player, my number 1 player in the class. I'm a huge fan of him. And then, again, you guys will see that I have guys like Joey Porter, Isaiah McGuire extremely high. And I draft based off of a blend of my board as well as the consensus. I don't think it's fair for me to skew all my drafts to give you the players that I would totally want because that's a fantasy mock draft. And fantasy mock drafts just don't work because everybody has a different opinion. So I like to blend it because of the fact that their board, not correct. My board, not correct. But you know what? Having a nice little blend seems pretty fun. And that's a way that I can show you what I love, show you what they love, and then give you a mock draft that's actually based off of a fair level of realism. So if you guys are wondering why am I drafting Myles Murphy above somebody like Isaiah McGuire, even though I don't have Isaiah below him, that is why. But at pick number 4, if you cannot move out of this position, dude, Jared Goff's been on a tear. He's been playing at a very high level, and he's the worst quarterback to have because he plays at a very high level, but maybe not high enough to really get you over the hump. I would still consider a quarterback here. However, I do think that continuing to develop this team and then maybe drafting a quarterback another year might be your best way about it. Or bringing in someone like Derek Carr. Like, you've had success with these veteran quarterbacks so far, obviously. I mean, you've had one that is a notable memory, of course. But Jared Goff has looked like he's revived his career there. And he's not a bad QB at all. He's someone he's been to the Super Bowl, right? So getting somebody of Myles Murphy's talent level is a perfect scheme fit as well. And thank you guys for reminding me that you guys run a hybrid 3-4-4-3, but Myles Murphy still fits in both of those. So I do love it. You're not forcing anything to happen. Of course, the Eagles are sitting here and they're like, dude, why the hell are there no quarterbacks going in the top 5? And trust me, it's a big shocker. Like, there's just one QB that's been taken. CJ Stroud's still on the board. We're seeing a very, very weird reality where the top teams are not the teams that are actually looking to replace their QBs. And that's thanks to 3 trades, of course. And then, Justin Fields just being on a team that's bereft of talent. But if the Eagles are sitting here and you can't trade out, remember, no trades mock, you have to start looking at the biggest impact on your roster. And again, it's not going to be a quarterback. I really do like Jalen Hurts. I obviously had the Eagles at 15-2 by the end of my my rankings predictions. So I'm very, very much on board with the Eagles. I've been spot on in terms of how they're supposed to do. 2 years in a row. So big fan of that. But I know with that next pick, I can get an edge rusher. I know I can. I'm going to be very confident that at pick number 31, there's going to be a guy who's a good enough edge rusher, a good enough running back if you really want to go that way. Because we know how he likes to get at least one offensive player in the first. But to me, you have to go corner. James Bradbury's been playing phenomenally. Damn near better than Slay, and some might argue that it is better than Darius Slay. But he's up for a contract. He's going to cost $20 million a year. That's really tough. I don't think you're going to pay him. And if you do, that's awesome. That's great. But, I got to go with the best zone corner in the class, Joey Porter Jr. I'm a huge fan of him. He has great size. He has great measurables. But in zone, he's on another level. And he's still an elite level man corner. he has some faults to him. He's not super perfect in that way that I fell in love with Sauce Gardner, but like I literally have Joey Porter's comp as Sauce Gardner in zone. Like I do think that he is a Hall of Fame level talent at corner. And corners so far have been my strongest suit. Like I've been pretty good at IDing good corners versus bad. So happy to say that Joey Porter, he's been balling out at Penn State, but I think he's gonna do I think he'll do everything for the Eagles, man. He's even good in the run game. Like I love his ability to play the run. So again, this is probably my favorite fit for the Eagles. That's not out of those top 3 super defenders, and it's a great fit. Pick number 6 for the Arizona Cardinals. I do think offensive line should at least be in question. I do, and I know even wide receiver you could potentially say it. I'm not going to go there. Edge rusher and corner are my number 1 and number 2 positions though. And again, I feel very comfortable with how deep this edge class is, maybe going after someone like that. I think a realistic pick here is Tyree Wilson, 6'6", 275, somebody who's a freak athlete, and he has freak production, and he's a very good player. I really like Tyree Wilson. So definitely don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for that to happen. I'm very low on Brian Bresee. That's just me. So if you guys don't see me drafting him, that's why. He still will probably be a first because, again, I blend in a realistic board with my own. But at this spot, you got to lock down on the corners, man. I mean, Byron Murphy can't just do it all on his own. Marco Wilson was a later round pick. I've been pounding the table for this guy for a while. He's my number 10 player in the draft. Christian Gonzalez. This guy is locked down. Like you just watch him. Just watch him yourself. Even against Georgia, he let up, I believe, a touchdown or 2. But my God, it was literally reminding me of the game Georgia versus Florida back in 2019 to 2020, where it might have been 2020-21. Regardless, Kyle Pitts versus Tyson Campbell. And Tyson, he lost, but he lost as well as you can lose. And that's how I felt about Christian Gonzalez in his first game for Oregon. And he's gotten better game after game after game. The last game he just played, he actually, I think, sealed the deal with an interception anyway. Like, this guy is a truly special cornerback talent. Like, I don't like to pound the table for these guys very often, but man corners, it's very hard to find someone as good as Christian Gonzalez. He has an amazing build. He's a phenomenal corner. I really do want to he deserves being a top 5 pick. He does. Like, I thoroughly believe that. Above guys like Jalen Jones that I have above him, but that's because Jalen's a zone corner only. Pick number 7, God only knows how this happens, but CJ Stroud seems to be the perfect fit for this team. I like Will Levis a lot. I think Will Levis has a chance of being better. CJ's been pretty much raised upon a silver spoon, and how much better can you get than the surrounding cast he has? He has first-round quality offensive linemen, first-round quality running backs. In his 2-year tenure, he has at least 5 first-round quality receivers. How can you not perform at an even better level? You're in the playoff because you're lucky Utah beat USC again. I'm just saying I have my reservations, but this is probably a very, very good place to go. And I think that it could be a nice spot for him it might be his best fit. That's my dream fit, is actually this situation. So I think that's great. But, man, people who are CJ truthers, you gotta be very careful. He has some god tier throws, even against Michigan. Let's just look at Michigan's sample size. There's a post route you could call it a post. You guys know what I'm talking about. To Marvin Harrison, beautiful ball, perfect placement. It's like, whoa, he could throw that. But then he throws a slant into triple coverage, and it's like, what did you see? It wasn't even like he was open for a second. And that just, to me, feels like he likes to force reads, which is my big issue with Trevor Lawrence. It was you force reads. But it's a little bit different than Trevor Lawrence's force reads. Like, these are like, what the hell are you doing there? It's not even like you can force it. So I think there's a legitimate issue with CJ Stroud's processing. And as you guys see, I have CJ there at 27 on my board, Will Levis at 30. It's a very small gap. I don't think that's that crazy. And, CJ has a lot to love, but I mean, I'm just saying that there's a understandable. I've always been on against the CJ Stroud full hype train, but man, there's legit concerns here. Pick number 8 for the Raiders. Now, this is a tough spot because a lot of the top corners are gone. Christian Gonzalez is my favorite pick for you guys. Will Levis is here. I don't think they exactly fits what would work with McDaniels. I would much rather wait maybe to the 3rd round and pick up someone like Hendon Hooker. Like someone who you can just, nurse back to health and then be able to work well in your scheme. Tanner McKee is a perfect guy for this system. We're not going to draft him in the first, don't worry. But that's just a better fit overall, and you're not going to get rid of McDaniels, and you want him to work. You don't get him something that's pretty much doomed to fail, and that's not fair for Will Levis either. So Peter Skoronski feels like he could be a great choice. I know the offensive line has not been atrocious at all, and they've been playing much better than they should be. But Peter Skoronski has an elite level talent, and my only concern is he's played left tackle. I like Colton Miller. I don't think I would want to infringe upon that territory. I'd be getting him to be a right tackle / guard. That's also the other problem. He's a guard. So, he has guard potential at 32-inch arms. I think he can play tackle, but at the same time, I do have my concerns. Now, do I think Paris Johnson might be a good fit? Hell yes. I mean, obviously you got Thyre Munford, who was, in that exact same position last year. But the positions I really want to look at, linebacker, it's too early. I like Trent Simpson, but if you want to trade back, let's just say, who needs a QB? God, I don't know that many teams that would desperately need a QB, but let's just assume that the Lions were desperate for Will Levis. They won't be, and I'll never do that. I'll never have them trade up for Will Levis, but let's just say they're desperate. That's a perfect spot. You trade back, and then there's a good chance that you can potentially get someone like Trent Simpson. Makes sense. Not doing it here at number 8. So that's where I'm at right now. Linebacker, I know. Interior defensive line, just not worth it. But then corner, I just don't really see. Keely Ringo. There's Keely Ringo. So it's down to Keely Ringo, Peter Skoronski, and Paris Johnson for me. Those are the 3 guys who I'm looking at. I forgot about Keely Ringo. It's the right pick. The cornerback class is starting to thin out a little bit. Obviously Garrett Williams got injured, so it kind of sucks. But, I just don't really feel as confident in the man-to-man corners. Tyreek didn't have the year I was hoping out of him. But Tony Grimes and Storm Duck are also returning to school. They're actually transferring. But Keely Ringo, going to be your best option. I really like the corner class, but if I'm going to be honest, it does taper off a lot quicker than what I'd hope for. But pick number 9 for the Panthers. It's a bright idea to potentially go Will Levis, but let's potentially test other options. I know you guys hate Will Levis, and I don't like getting picks for teams that the fan base doesn't exactly like, because the fact is, the fan base knows a lot better than I am of the intricacies of their team. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to take a quarterback for a team just because you guys don't want him, but there's probably other positions that might be more valuable. Jared Verse, I think that's a great option. Obviously, you value Florida State edge rushers. I think he's going to test out of his mind. If I'm not mistaken, he might be going to the Senior Bowl, which I think he's going to have a very similar rise to Florida State's Jermaine Johnson last year, but in a different way. He right now is in the 20s to 30s range where he gets drafted. He might be getting to the top 10. And I think it's a great move because, again, Hassan Reddick was not there. This identity is the defense. But, other positions the Panthers could go is edge. I just love edge rusher. Tyree Wilson would be fun. I'm going to do it. We're going to go show some love to the 20th ranked player in this class on their board, number 8 on mine, Jared Verse. He had an ankle injury. That's what limited his production all year, but he very well might be the best player in the class. You guys would not accept 2 firsts and a second for Brian Burns. That shows how much you value that position. And Jared Verse is literally just, I think he's a better version of Hassan Reddick. And I love Hassan Reddick. And obviously, you guys had Hassan a year ago. So Jared Verse is going to be an absolute amazing scheme fit and an absolutely amazing player. Will Levis, it's just tough to pull the trigger right now. Just because, again, I believe in his talent, but man, there's some big question marks, and it's you might as well roll with someone like Sam Darnold or somebody you can get on a cheaper contract. until you can draft somebody of the caliber of, let's just say, Caleb Williams. Like, that's obviously the creme de la creme, but there's not many teams that are going to suck that badly. So you are at least in the running for it. Pick number 10, another team that is like pretty much on the, like, this whole entire division is complete booty cheeks at the moment. But I did actually, I'm going to probably go Tyree Wilson here or Cam Smith. I'm just going to be honest. Like, those are the two guys who I'm probably going to run away with. But I did like the idea of potentially going Trent Simpson because this team does need linebacker. It's a little bit too early. I would trade back, of course, but it is a very big possibility. We're seeing offensive linemen fall. We're seeing good receivers fall, but it's really down to these guys. Tyree Wilson deserves to be a top 10 to 15 pick, and he will be. But again, I've talked about this corner class ad nauseum. You need to be able to get early and get often with these, especially man-to-man corners. I know it's not a primary need. It's probably around 5 on your priorities list, but other issues, interior defensive line, not worth it. You look at linebacker, it's just a little bit early for a lower value position. Then you look at edge rusher, super deep class. You can get it in the second, easily. And so I'd feel very comfortable with that. Again, check out tomorrow for round 1 of the trades mock, as well as the continuation of it for another 2 rounds, which is the brand new part of it. But I think if you have to hit on a pick, you're not going to get anywhere close to the ability of Cam Smith later on. I just don't believe it. So Casey Hayward has 1 more year left on his contract. I personally want to get a young guy to be able to learn from somebody of that caliber. I don't think Casey Hayward has many more years left on his career, and I want to maximize his impact for my roster during the time that we have him. Pick number 11, this is probably going to be Quentin Johnston. I don't think I need to waste much time with this. You know, there's no corner available. That would really surprise me or just intrigue me enough. Quentin Johnston's an amazing player, so not going to complain about that. You're also taking him from an in-division rival, because that would have been my pick right here. I think that, oh man, there's only a couple players I like to take for this team. That's Trent Simpson, as well as Tyree Wilson and Jordan Addison. So I want to potentially explore some other options here. I mean, again, you could go Peter Skoronski, because I honestly think that interior offensive line would not be a bad choice. Kenyon Green's not been too good. I think he's a tackle in the long run. I want to try to switch some things up a little bit. Paris Johnson would be fun because he can play guard and tackle as well. And Jalen Jones is a perfect scheme fit, but of course we don't know what the damn scheme's going to be in a year, so there is always that issue as well. I think I am going to go Trent Simpson here. I think that it's just the best possible player, but I really do want to potentially test some other options, and it's just a little bit tough because I think there's a nice top 3 at that point, and then you just get to select who's ever there, and we got to select whatever we wanted. Steelers, we're going to go Peter Skoronski, and a lot of people will try to clamor for somebody else because of the length issue, but I'll just say the Steelers can kind of use help inside or out, and I'm just happy wherever Peter Skoronski lands because you'll have him there for a nice 10 years at least. So at least you're getting some form of constancy on your offensive line. He's a really damn good player. He's the best tackle in my eyes. You know, there's a big gap from him even to Broderick Jones, where I like Broderick Jones, but Peter Skoronski, even if he becomes a guard, still a phenomenal player and something the Steelers definitely would love to have for the next 10 to 20 years. The Packers, it's Tyree Wilson or nothing. If he's on the board, they're going to take him. Obviously, Rashawn Gary's going to be out pretty much half of the year next year, if I'm not mistaken, and the run defense has just been kind of no bueno. This team loves to draft defensive guys in the first round, and this is completely on the mark for what they would draft. Pick number 15 for the Lions. DB, definitely amongst the dudes who I would grab. You know, you could, I love Brian Branch this squad because of the fact you can always use him as a safety as well. I think that's just a fun option. It's probably where I'm going to go. Other positions, there's not really many. Linebacker, obviously if Trent Simpson's here, probably going to take him. Let's see, where else? So running back, I'm not going to take Bijan in the first. This running back class is too deep. Wide receiver, there's no wide receiver 1, and Jordan Addison would just create a really small receiving room. I hope you bring DJ Chark back. That would make me feel very happy because I think DJ Chark's a good receiver, and he's underproduced a lot this year. So maybe you can steal him because I think the talent is still there. And offensive line wise, I don't think you're desperate to be able to get an offensive lineman. I think Hal Vaitai has another 3 years on his contract. It's a little bit of an oof, but still you have some serviceable guys. Now defensively, corner still a concern. Safety to me still a little bit of a concern. I was a big fan of Kirby Joseph, so I'm glad to see he's panning out. But I still want maybe one more guy to be in that rotation. And then linebacker, obviously, defensive interior, obviously. So I think the best value right now is a versatile defensive back. Brian Branch is going to be exactly that. He's a hyper athlete, can play man coverage, can play as a boundary corner as well as a safety and a slot. That's going to be very valued for just having a Swiss Army knife to plug and play. You just know it's going to work out. Pick number 16 for Bill Belichick. I'm trying to see. I think Paris Johnson feels like something that the Patriots go after. Again, I'm trying to out some new guys here and there, but Paris Johnson, that left tackle spot with Isaiah Wynn is going to be up. It's an expensive-ass position to replace, and Isaiah Wynn hasn't really earned the full right for that yet. So Paris Johnson would be an amazing fit there. Also has that guard versatility. Bill likes being able to draft these offensive linemen with good versatility and good motor. Paris Johnson is a very good player. I have my concerns in terms of his anchor. Gets pushed back very easily, but I still think that the hype's going to be there. He's still very athletic, so definitely enough to pull the trigger. Pick number 17. Now, we're not going to go tight end or a safety in the first round. I think those are both potential positions for sure. And we've gotten Jalen Carter. So now it's time to go after an edge rusher. And there's a lot of really good ones on the board. A lot of really good ones. And I'm looking at B.J. Ojolari here. He's exactly the type of guy who I'd be trying to search for, that guy who could be a true outside linebacker. I think that's probably the best move. Felix can do it, but he's usually in a 4-point stance. It's a 5-tech. So I'm going to go with B.J. Ojolari. If you want to wait to the next round, maybe Nolan Smith would be an amazing choice. If you're willing to wait, Nolan Smith's an amazing steal, probably in the late second, early third. That's something you could do. But I want to make sure that I get as much bang for my buck. B.J. Ojolari, he's number 11 on my board for a reason. He's a hyper athlete who shows a lot of potential and does produce. So definitely a big fan of B.J. Ojolari. Pick number 18. I love going after a tackle for this team, but again, I'm going to try to switch it up a little bit. We like to also go DB, but if I'm not, is Trent Simpson still on the board? No, we took him earlier. That's obviously the ideal pick, right? Trent Simpson to this team, the ideal pick. Now, there is a potential chance that Michael Mayer is the pick. I hope not, for y'all's sake. I hope not. I always go after Anton Harrison. Still could. And it might just be too good at this moment to pass on somebody of the talent level of Broderick Jones. And getting that long-term option at tackle definitely seems worth it to me. So I'm going to be pulling the trigger there. Pick number 19, you got to go Will Levis if he's here. I think you could have went him at pick 15, but Jared Goff's just been playing too well. Pick number 20 for the Chargers. Jordan Addison's the obvious pick, but I'm going to stray away from that for the time being to add some new spice to the mock draft. And again, we might end up going with him tomorrow, right? But this is a time to test out the water, see what's good. And I wanted to look at interior defensive line. Brian Bresee is the type of guy where if I am the Chargers, man, I know this guy has potential, and we don't have much to lose. If he ends up busting out, it's another interior in the first round that busts out, but it's still worth taking a shot on. We're not getting worse if Brian Bresee doesn't work out, and we can get a lot better if he does. So out of respect for Brian Bresee, he'll be here at pick number 20 for the Chargers. 21, I'll scroll up so you guys get to see a quick little recap right there. 21 for the Titans. And Jordan Addison would be really fun. And honestly, I'm going to send the pick right now. We're not going to think twice about it. Pick number 22 for Washington. Now, I've always gone Jalen Jones. We're going to try to switch it up again. Just keep it a little bit more fresh. Antonio Johnson would be a fun DB to have on this team. I fully believe in this team. Again, I had them, I think, winning quite a few games. I was hoping that Commander Wentz could take him over the top. Michael Mayer, though. I know y'all don't really vibe with the idea of a tight end. Offensive line still is in the mix as well. Anton Harrison would not be a bad guy. He's a swing. He can play a swing tackle mold. We're gonna actually go Anton, but I do want to discuss Michael Mayer to that team because he'd be a nice, reliable option for Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, whoever is leading the team. So that'd be really nice. I personally would prefer that over most picks, but when you can boost the offensive line, you do so because you can always draft. You can always get a tight end later on. Receiving, like you can get a tall wide receiver and put him at tight end, and you can't convert many positions to tackle, but you can convert some guys maybe to tight end. Pick number 23. This is a good spot for Michael Mayer actually. Getting a reliable receiving option, never a bad choice. Jackson Smith and Jigba, not a bad choice. Have they updated this to not have Kayshon Boutte? They did. Hallelujah. So obviously, Jermaine Burton's not in. Neither is Jacob Cowing, so kind of sucks there. But there's some good guys in this class. There are. And you could wait. But at the same time, there are still guys like Jack Smith and Jigba that are going to be very nice and very reliable for you. Anthony Richardson is still here. So you could take him and just see what happens. And I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. Anthony Richardson's the guy. Could the Seahawks have taken a developmental guy like him earlier? Sure, we can test that out another time. But, I mean, it's so tough for them just to be like, okay, we're going to take a QB. We're just going to go with Anthony Richardson and have a 2-year project. Might be the most, biggest return on your investment because, you have Jalen Carter. But we'll see about it. Pick number 24 for the Broncos. There's a lot of guys you could end up targeting here. Antonio Johnson being one of them. You could have a nice rotation in there and just say, fuck it, let's go Bijan, but not exactly my forte. I do think that, linebacker, not a bad choice here, but, tight end, I can't just get rid of last year's pick, Greg Dulcich, because he's a very good player too. Jalen Jones, you could get him because he's very good value. Again, you guys get to see my board right here as well, scrolling down so you guys get to see a little bit more. So there's still some phenomenal players. I'm going to end up going after Darnell Wright here, tackle out of Tennessee. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, so we'll see if he can actually raise his stock to this level. But I'm a big believer in him. He's played very well at both left and right tackle over his career. So I'm very excited to see him be able to potentially play that role for the Broncos. Pick number 25 for the Ravens. Now, Jalen Jones could be a fun option here. Antonio Johnson, they have the best safety core in the league, so, don't really need that. It's a team that doesn't need much. So I'm going to get a reliable target here in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Definitely something that would be a very nice, reliable choice for Lamar to look at any play. Not going to be a very high upside receiver. He's been tracked down by linebackers like Brandon Smith who have run in the 4.5s. And that's not saying that it's bad for him to be around 4.6, but when you're trying to build a roster, let's just say for Tennessee, you don't want multiple guys who are going to be 4.5 on your roster or 4.6. That's tough. You're going to immediately start limiting your potential, and you're going to have to, the safeties are going to start keying in on maybe the one or two guys who run faster than that on the field, and it just it limits what you can do. But Jack Smith and Jigba is going to be an amazing piece, especially on a roster like Baltimore's, where guys are running 4.4, 4.3, 4.2. So that's a great spot for him. Probably my dream destination might be the Ravens because, again, that just is going to be the biggest bang for the buck for both the Ravens as well as Jack Smith and Jigba at this point. Pick number 26. I think Jalen Jones is too good to pass on. I don't think it's your primary need, but it is different. Jalen Jones is a phenomenal player, my number 7 player in the class. Fits the scheme, and he's just going to have a big impact. He will be probably your corner one, day one, in my opinion, if he comes in to your system. Cowboys, man, Antonio Johnson's a little bit too enticing to grab right now. I think that I have to pull the trigger on it. Let me know what you guys think. I know DB is not necessarily the number one need. Offensive line, I would love to go after that. There's some guys in the next round that you could try to target for that for sure. But wide receiver, definitely always on the table. It got significantly worse when Kayshon was just goodbye. Not my vibe. I really got pissed off with that. Bijan's still on the board, not going to go there either. Antonio Johnson, getting these Texas A&M DBs, they're both phenomenal. You can play anywhere. You can play him even as a linebacker as well. I just love having that versatility and just letting, hopefully if Dan Quinn stays, him to be able to mess around and see what happens with Antonio Johnson. Pick number 28. You got to do what you got to do, man. You got to play some defense here. You do not want the Bills having Bijan Robinson. So being able to take Bijan definitely seems to be the perfect move for your team, because if not, you're facing him every year in the AFC Championship. I am going to say I'd rather blow my first round pick, giving the Bills a big middle finger. Pick number 29. Man, this is a tough pick actually, because when I'm thinking about it, I want a boundary corner where Jalen Jones would be perfect. Garrett Williams, not going to be a first round pick after an ACL tear. Very good player. Very good player. But wide receiver, I just told you guys, it got a lot worse. Why is there a Princeton wide receiver in the top 120? That is interesting. We'll have to be able to study him on the Discord. So I think offensive line, never a bad choice. But, I mean, you could it's a weird spot. It's an awkward spot in my opinion. I don't really like where I'm at right now. I just want to go after a DB, and I think I will. Clark Phillips, he just declared for the draft, which means he got good to go. He can play some lockdown coverage. He might be kind of stuck in the slot, which might make him have some reps with Cam Dantzler in a rotation, but he has shown to be able to play on the outside. Sometimes you can have a guy who's 185 play very well. Sauce Gardner is 190 at 6'3". Clark Phillips is 5'10", but he also plays a lot larger than he is. Definitely against guys like Jordan Addison, he's been able to have a lot of success. Even against guys like Drake London, who are 6'5", he has had success. That's why I originally caught my eyes. This small corner is playing very well against a very big, heavy receiver who's a top 10 pick. So Clark's had a very good end to the year. He had some slip-ups in there, but I'm glad to say he is probably back. The Bills, I've kind of screwed over the Bills with a lot of picks. Andrew Voorhees might be one of those dudes where it's you might as well just start developing the offensive line. Michael Mayer, honestly, just be a fun option. I love Dawson Knox, and having him and Michael Mayer might seem to be the best thing for the team. Adding another weapon just never seems to be an awful idea. Want to test this idea out? So Michael Mayer it is. And then finally ending off, we have the Eagles. Already went after Joey Porter, one of my favorite players in the draft. I think edge rusher needs to be the next priority. So looking at the guys who are available, there's a lot of really good ones. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to just show my love here. We're going to say Isaiah McGuire, one of my favorite players in the draft, my number 2 player in the draft. So I know I'm higher on him than everybody else. You guys get to see that right there with the recap, because I know y'all have been asking for it. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.